couple of weeks ago, I was sitting in an APPG meeting in Parliament when I received a call from my 17-year-old son's school, which is very unusual to get a call. So I took it, and his head of year informed me that he had been mugged by several youths wearing balaclavas, carrying knives. You can imagine my feelings and my utter shock and concern for my son. And it suddenly dawned on me that I'm not alone. There are so many mums who have that call. Sometimes that call is tragic and they never get to see their son again, or their daughter, but it is quite often too many of our sons are involved. Mr. Speaker, I am absolutely relieved to tell you that it was a case of misidentity. He hadn't been mugged, he had witnessed the mugging further up the street. But again, it reiterates the issue that nobody is ever immune from knife crime. It is not a socio-economic issue that only affects certain demographics. It can hit any family, as we have seen in too many situations in this country over the years. It can be professional, middle-class kids, it can be kids from estates, it doesn't matter. Knife crime, it will affect every child who's out there, and that is why we all have to work together to ensure that our children are safe when they go out. I am one of those mums who cannot relax when my children are out until I hear that key in the door, and I know I'm not alone in that situation. Mr. Speaker, this is not a modern phenomenon. It is not happening just now. It's happening for decades, and we have got to get a grip of this. 11 years ago, a young boy, a 16-year-old boy, was literally slaughtered in Pimlico in my constituency. Hani was 16 and was attacked by a group of young people and was murdered. And 5 young men were sentenced for 26, 24 years and at His Majesty's pleasure. And it's always dawned on me that Hani lost his life and his mother Pauline will never hear his key in the door. But also those young people who were involved in that murder, their whole lives have been ended, their families' lives have been ended. And we have got to do more to ensure that those children do not spend the rest of their lives in prison. It is not always, of course we don't want to lose any more victims, but I also believe that those involved in these heinous crimes are often victims themselves because they are involved in county lines or any form of the drug crime, and we've got to deal with these people. Mr. Speaker, my constituency of the Cities of London and Westminster, unfortunately, is one of the hot spots for the Met. It has the highest number of knife or sharp instrument offences recorded in any borough in the Metropolitan Police Force. Over the previous rolling 12 months, there were 1,930 knife offences in Westminster alone.
Shocking.
Increase of over 18% compared to the year before. And between January...
Office for National Statistics for the year ending March 2023 show that Sussex recorded 57 knife offences per 100,000 population, which is below the national average of 87 per 100,000, with 16% reduction in knife crime for that period. So contrasting that with the Met Police, which has the highest funding of any force in the country, where the ONS figures show a 22% increase in knife crime in London, which of course has a knock-on effect on all the counties around London. Would my honourable friend agree that the Labour Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, should take a leaf out of Sussex Police and Crime Commissioner and Sussex Police, Conservative is Katie Bourne, and get a grip of this serious night crime?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I agree with my honourable friend that obviously London, being the largest city in the country with over 9 million people, is always going to have larger stats. But London is being let down. Londoners are being let down. They have been constantly let down for 8 years because of this current mayor's failure to get a grip of knife crime.
Absolutely.
There are too many families across London who should never have had to be involved in knife crime and lose their beloved children. Madam Deputy Speaker, there were 156 offences in December 2023 alone of knife crime. And I think we have all got to realise that this is not going to stop unless we get a grip of it. And it's got to be, I personally think, an holistic approach. It is not just about stricter sentences. Of course there is a part to play within sentences and the criminal justice system, but we have got to get to the nub of the reason why young people are carrying knives in the first place. I've always believed if you carry a knife, you are more likely to use it. Yeah. And I'm so concerned that today too many young people feel that they have to carry a knife for their own protection. We have got to persuade our young people that there is an alternative way. And we do that, and we've heard by several members here today of different approaches. And we have to learn from what's happening in Scotland. I think they've got an awful lot to offer. There's got to be a public health approach to this. There's also got to be a community approach. When I was Cabinet Member for Public Protection at Westminster Council in 2013, I took on the brief, and I was shocked to find that Westminster, a borough that people always think of Mayfair and Belgravia and the West End as being affluent areas, we in 2013 were number 3 in the Met's serious youth violence table. We were even higher than Hackney. And I remember going to see the then Deputy Mayor for Policing, who is now a Hampshire Conservative MP, and he told me if I didn't get on top of it immediately, it would only get worse, and it would never change. So I immediately worked with my brilliant officers at Westminster City Council and the police, and we established the first ever integrated gangs unit. And I set up a scheme called Your Choice, because I wanted to send a message to young people: you have a choice. You can go down the criminal justice system, you can be involved in gangs, you can be involved in knife crime, but it will only end one way, either in the morgue or in prison. Or there is alternative ways where you can work with us. And I was very clear that we had to understand why young people were involved, and also a message to their parents. And we often know that parents do not know what their young people are getting involved in when they are out, but also they don't know how to handle this. So it was a message and a helping hand to parents as well. And I'm delighted to inform you, Madam Deputy Speaker, that we went straight back down those tables within a year to where we usually are, around about 16th out of 19. So, but it has to be a holistic but a full approach with all the agencies working together. In the integrated gangs unit, we had the police, we had probation, we had special needs, we had schools, we had social workers. It was a whole approach, because interestingly, one of the things that we discovered was a lot of the young people involved or on the periphery of knife crime had speech and language issues. They couldn't properly communicate. They also had not really progressed since primary school. They'd had a nightmare getting into secondary, changing and moving into secondary school, and they had been lost to the system. So then we grabbed these young men, and I am, as I said, delighted that we did improve the situation. But we have got to ensure that we all work together on this. It shouldn't be a political issue. This is a community issue where all our young people deserve us all to work together. We've already heard today about violence reduction units, and we do have one in London, and it's run by a very impressive woman, Liv Peck, who I've known for a long time. But I honestly do not think that she's getting the backing and the seriousness from the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. I remember in 2018 he held a knife crime summit just before the local elections, and the then Home Secretary was here, attended, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner attended, the Deputy Mayor for Policing attended. He chaired it, He didn't speak. He was not being held to account. And I'll never forget that he never allowed himself to be held to account on this situation. He has got to be held to account. Of course I will give way.
I thank the Honourable Member for giving way. And when we talk about accountability, it works both ways. And although I agree with everybody that has spoken that says this is not a political result, it affects political stripes, all political stripes. But how we have got here is political decision-making. When the Honourable Member talks about children not being able to speak or read or write, that's a political decision of 14 years of this government eroding our education system. Yeah. When we talk about policing and not enough resources, that's the decision to erode community policing. Yeah. So would the Honourable Member take some responsibility for 14 years of this?
Yeah. I thank the Honourable Member for her intervention. I have to gently push back and say, if you look at the PISA tables, where under the Conservative government we have become straight up from 25th in the tables. Under the last Labour government we are now 14th for reading, which I think is a very impressive result. And also I'm sure the policing minister will mention this later, but this government did provide this current mayor of London with extra funding for 1,000 extra police officers, but failed to recruit those officers, and so the money went back into the pot and has been given to other police forces who I'm sure have taken advantage of that. But this is not a political issue, and I can say that I will take responsibility for when I was leader of Westminster Council, when we had cut youth services, we had cut them, and we had seen then a direct link to issues on the street. And I put my hands up and I said, absolutely, and we put £1.5 million back into the pot, because it is right that we make sure that young people have choices and they have the ability to do things after school, after college, and that they are given the best start in life. Madam Deputy Speaker, we are talking today here about a knife and sword ban and legislation that is required. I find it quite incredible that manufacturers do not take the same responsibility that they should be, and that they can get away through loopholes in legislation so that they are now producing zombie knives without writing on, because zombie knives with writing on are banned. I have absolutely no understanding about why anybody would want to manufacture a zombie knife in the first place. There's only one use for them, and that is not a use that we want to see. So I would suggest perhaps to ministers that perhaps we look at more flexible legislation around the words of blades or something like that, rather than being so specific about particular products, that we are able to widen up the legislation so that it covers so many different products and any future products. Madam Deputy Speaker, I think it's also important that we look at other corporates like record labels who are willing to put out drill music, which is often celebrating gang culture, and there has got to be a direct link to young people feeling in culture that is the right thing to do, to carry a knife and perhaps be willing to use it. Madam Deputy Speaker, I welcome this debate today. I think it's a very, very important debate that we have across party to ensure that we do work together, to ensure that we send a very clear message to all young people that carrying a knife is not the right solution, and that every young person in this country, whatever town, city or village they live in, whatever their background, they deserve to be safe in their lives. Thank you.